Hello. Are you ready for story time with Nana? Oh, I love to do story time with Kiri. Okay, well, it's story time, and we're going to read a book today. Are you ready? Okay. Here is our special visitor. You want to see who our visitor is today? Welcoming Blue Bear. Hey, Blue Bear, how are you doing today? Aren't you the cutest thing? Oh, I wish I had a better name for you, but Blue Bear is what it is. Kiri really likes Blue Bear. Oh, you're so soft. You're so soft. Okay. Well, Blue Bear, did you bring us a book today? Yes, you did? You did. Okay. Okay, well, he's going to show it to me. So let's see what it is. Oh, this is a especially good book, but Blue Bear says that sometimes books get broken because he's so excited. He said this is his favorite book, Toby the Tank, Toby the Team Engine, and he said he loved it so much that the top fell off. But you know what, Blue Bear? Even if your book is broken, you can still read it. Did you know that? Yeah, you can still read it. So Blue Bear and Kiri, we're gonna read Toby the Team Engine. But Blue Bear, you're gonna sit down right there, okay? All right, he's gonna sit down. Now you wanna sit down? Okay. Because this one's a little bit longer. All right, well, here's our book, and it's still gonna work. It's called Toby the Tram Engine by Reverend W. Awdry. Okay, here we go. All right. Toby and the Stout Gentleman. Toby is a tram engine. He is short and sturdy. He has cow catchers and side plates and doesn't look like a steam engine at all. He takes freight cars from farms and factories to the main line, and the big engines take them to London and elsewhere. His tram line runs along roads and through fields and villages. Toby rings his bell cheerfully everyone he meets. Ding, 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 ding. He has a coach called Henrietta. Henrietta! Who has seen better days. She complains because she has too few passengers. Here's Henrietta. Can you see her? And here's Toby. See, Toby is attached to Henrietta and always takes her with him. She might be useful one day, he says. Okay. Next page. It's not fair at all, grumbles Henrietta, as the buses roar past full of passengers. She remembers that she used to be full, and 9 freight cars would rattle behind her. Now there's only 3 or 4, for the farms and truck factories send their goods mostly by truck. Toby is always careful on the road. The cars, buses, and trucks often have accidents. Toby hasn't had an accident for years, but the buses are crowded and Henrietta is empty. I can't understand it, says Toby. See, Toby? He says, I can't understand it. People come to see Toby, but they come by bus. They stare at him. Isn't he quaint? They say, and laugh. Poor Toby. They make him so cross. One day a car stopped by and a little boy jumped out. Come on, Bridget, he called to his sister. Together they ran across the field to Toby. 2 ladies and a stout gentleman followed. The gentleman looked important, but nice. There's Toby. And there's the man. He stopped to look at him. The children ran back. Come on, grandfather. Do look at this engine. And seizing their hands, they almost dragged him along. That's a tram engine, Stephen, said the gentleman. Okay, turn the page. Is it electric? Said Bridget. Whoosh, hissed Toby crossly. Shh, shh, said her brother. You've offended him. Bridget says, but trams are electric, aren't they? They are mostly, the stout gentleman answered, but this is a steam tram. May we go in him, grandfather, please? The guard had begun to blow his whistle. Toot, toot. Stop, said the said the stout gentleman and raised his hands. The guard, surprised, opened his mouth, and the whistle fell out. And when he was picking up his whistle, they all scrammed inside of Henrietta. There goes the children. Hip, hip, hooray, chanted Henrietta. She rattled happily along. Toby did not sing. Electric indeed, he snorted. He was very hurt. The stout gentleman and his family got out at the junction, but waited for Toby to take him back to their car. "What is your name?" said the stout gentleman. "Toby, sir." "Thank you, Toby, for a very nice ride." "Thank you, sir," said Toby politely. He felt better now. The gentleman, he thought, is a gentleman who knows exactly how to speak to the engines. Turn the page. The children came every day for a fortnight. Sometimes they rode with the guard, sometimes in empty freight cars. On the last day of all, the driver invited them into his cab. All were sorry that they had to go away. Stephen and Bridget said, "Thank you, Toby," his driver, his fireman, and the guard. And the gentleman gave them all presents. "Pip, pip, pip, peep," whistled Toby. "Come again soon." We will, Toby," said the children. "We will." And they waved goodbye. Turn the page. The months passed by. Toby had very few freight cars and even fewer passengers. "Our last day, Toby," said his driver sadly that morning. "The manager says we must close tomorrow." That day, Henrietta had more passengers than she could manage. They rode in the freight cars and crowded all into the brake van, and the guard hadn't enough tickets to go around. The passengers joked and sang, but Toby and his driver wished they wouldn't say goodbye. He wished that they could do it forever. "We are sorry your line is closing down." "So am I," said Toby sadly. The last passengers left the station, and Toby puffed slowly on his little sled. There he is. He goes to his shed. "Nobody wants me." And he went unhappily to sleep. The next morning, the shed doors were flung open, and he woke with such a start to see his firemen dancing a jig and excited, waving a piece of paper, going, "Wake up, Toby, wake up," they shouted. "And listen to this. It's a letter from the stout gentleman." Toby listened and heard. "But I mustn't tell you any more, or I shall spoil the next story." And the next story is called Thomas in Trouble. Okay. There is a line in a quarry at the end of Thomas's branch. It goes for some distance along the road. Thomas was always very careful here in case everyone was coming. "Peep, peep," he whistled. Then people got out of the way. He puffed slowly along his freight cars, puff, 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 with the cars rumbling behind him. Early one morning there was no one on the road, but a large policeman was sitting on the grass next to the line. He was shaking a stone from his boot. There's the policeman. Thomas liked policemen. He had been a great friend of the constable who used to live in the village but had just retired. Here's Thomas. There he is. Thomas expected that the new constable would be friendly too. "Peep, peep," he whistled. "Good morning." The policeman jumped and dropped his boot. He scrambled up and hopped round on one leg till he was facing Thomas. Thomas was sorry to see that he didn't look friendly at all. He was red in the face and very cross. The policeman wobbled and was trying to keep his balance. "Oh, oh, oh." "Disgraceful," he sputtered. "I didn't sleep a wink last night. It was so quiet, and now engines come whistling suddenly behind me. My first day in the country, too." Thomas was surprised. The policeman picked up his boot and hopped over to George. "I'm sorry, sir," said Thomas. "I only said good morning." The policeman grumbled, leaning against Thomas. Before he put his boot on, he drew himself and pointed to Thomas. "Where's your cow catcher?" he said. "But I don't catch cows, sir." "Don't be funny with me," said the policeman. And he looked at Thomas's wheels. "No side plates either?" He wrote down in his notebook. "Engines going on public roads must have their wheels covered and the cow catcher in front. You haven't, so you are dangerous to the public." "Rubbish," said Thomas's driver. "We've been along here hundreds of times and never had one accident." "That makes it worse," the policeman answered. "You're a regular lawbreaker in my book." Thomas puffed away so sad. Oh, no. Poor Thomas. Sir Topham Hatt was having breakfast. He was eating toast and marmalade. He had the newspaper out in front of him, and his wife had given him some more coffee. The butler knocked and came in. "Excuse me, sir. You're wanted on the telephone." "Bother that telephone," said Topham. "I'm sorry, my dear," he said a few minutes later. "Thomas is in trouble with the police, and I must go at once." He gulped down his coffee, and off he went to help Thomas. At the junction, Thomas's driver told Topham Hatt what had happened. "Dangerous to the public indeed. We'll see about that." And he climbed grimly into Annie's coach. The policeman was at the other end of the platform. Sir Topham Hatt spoke to him at once, and the crowd collected to listen. Other policemen came to see what was happening, and Mr. Hatt argued with them too, but it was no good. "The law is the law," they said, "and we can't change." Sir Topham Hatt felt exhausted. He mopped his face. "I'm sorry, driver. It's no arguing with these policemen. We will have to make those cowcatcher things for Thomas, I suppose." "Everyone will laugh, sir," said Thomas. "They'll say I look like a tram." Sir Topham Hatt stared, and then he laughed. "Well done, Thomas. Why, I didn't think of it before. We want a tram engine. When I was on holiday, I met a nice little engine named Toby. He hasn't enough work to do and needs a change. I'll write to his controller at once." A few days later, do you know what happens? Toby arrived. "That is one good engine," Sir Topham Hatt said. "And you've brought Henrietta." "You don't mind, do you, sir?" said Toby anxiously. "The station master wanted to use her as a hen house, and that would just never do." "No, indeed," said Topham Hatt gravely. "We couldn't allow that." Toby made the freight cars behave even better than Thomas did. At first, Thomas was a little jealous, but he was so pleased that Toby rang the bell, ding, 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 and made the policeman jump as firm friends ever had been before. Now, Toby and Henrietta take the workmen to the quarry every morning. At the junction, they often meet James. Toby and Henrietta were shabby when they first came in. They needed new paint. James was very rude. "Ugh, what dirty objects," he would say. At last, Toby lost patience. "James, why are you red?" "I am a splendid engine," said James. "Ready for anything. You never see my paint dirty." "Oh," said Toby innocently. "That's why you once needed bootlaces to be ready, I suppose." There's James the Red Engine and Toby. James went redder than ever and snorted off. At the end of the line, James left coaches and got ready for the next train. It was slow goods, stopping at every station to pick up and set down freight cars. James hated slow trains. Dirty freight cars from dirty sidings. Ugh! Starting with only a few, he picked up more and more freight cars. At first, the freight cars behaved well, but James bumped them so crossly they decided to pay him back. They presently grumbled over the viaduct, and they approached the top of Gordon's Hill. Heavy goods halted here to pin down their brakes. James had had an accident with the freight cars. "Wait, James, wait," said his driver. But James couldn't wait. He was too busy thinking about what Toby had said. Too late. There he was. He tried to stop. Oh, no. Oh, no is right. I've got to stop, groaned James, and setting his brakes, he managed to check the freight cars. It was a mad rush. They were going everywhere, but much, much, much too fast. They can't stop in time. Through the station they thundered and lurched into the yard. James shut his eyes. I can't watch. James was more dirty. Bam! And he crashed. And all the cars, they broke down on the yard. What a huge mess! Toby and Percy were sent to help and came as quickly as they could. Look here, Percy, exclaimed Toby. Whatever is that dirty object? Oh, my goodness. That's James, didn't you know? It's James's shape, but James's splendid red engine. You never see his paint dirty. James shut his eyes and pretended he hadn't heard. They cleared away the unhurt freight cars and helped James home. You see, James's paint job is all dirty. Well done, Percy and Toby. And they brought James home. He turned to James. Fancy letting your freight cars run away. I am surprised. You're not fit to be seen. You must be cleaned at once. Toby shall have a fresh coat of paint, chocolate and blue, I think. Please, sir, said Henrietta, can I have one too? Certainly. She shall have brown, just like Annie and Clarabelle. Oh, thank you, sir. She will be so pleased. Toby ran happily to tell her the news. The end. And that's our story about Toby the Tram Engine. What did you think about that, Blue Bear? That was so exciting. Oh, my goodness. I'm so glad nobody was hurt in the trains. That's right. Oh, I really like Thomas and Henrietta. She got a new paint job, didn't she? She sure did. And now all the trains are going to be happy because everybody has a job. Toby, Thomas, Henrietta, Anna, Claire, and James after he gets a bath. Okay. Well, maybe you need a bath too, right? Everybody's got to get a bath. Well, let's say goodbye, Blue Bear. Bye, Kiri. Bye, Blue Bear. We hope you enjoyed our story. Nana loves you. Mwah.